John thought I was too delicate. On a friend's advice, he sent me to a disciplinary academy for omegas out in the country. After my fingers were broken, I became obedient and docile. The day he came to pick me up, I endured the searing pain of my shattered knuckles to play a piece on the piano. John, having no idea this was my swan song, said impatiently, "William, you play this song every single day. Don't you ever get sick of it?" Later, after I had forgotten him, I stunned a crowd with a piano duet. But John was in the audience, trembling as he asked me, "William, didn't you say you would only ever play this piece for me?" I was about to be released from the academy when the warden slapped a stack of photos across my face. "Once you're out, you know what you can and can't say." My eyes drifted down to the pictures. In them, I was arranged in various poses, covered in wounds. The terror of being beaten, of having my fingers broken, all came rushing back. Those were the longest 3 hours of my life, a period where I tasted the deepest of human suffering. I honestly thought I was going to die. The warden yanked me up by my hair. As I stared up, his horrifying face filled my vision, and I trembled with fear. Dread had become my instinct. "I won't tell anyone, I promise," I assured him. I put on a long-sleeved shirt and pants to hide the scars and walked out of the academy. John was already waiting. The look he gave me was tinged with a faint disgust. "Let's go. Any later and we'll be wasting time." I followed timidly behind him. My fingers were so weak that I tried and failed several times to open the car door. John, already in the driver's seat, watched me in the rearview mirror, his gaze full of contempt. "William, why are you being so dramatic about something so simple? A year in there clearly did nothing for you. Are you still trying to?" Before he could finish, I forced myself to endure the sharp pain and used both hands to wrench the door open. "I'm sorry. I'll do better." John froze for a second. The old me would have clung to his arm, whining for him to open the door for me. But after that inhuman torture, I was no longer the William who would cling to him. He drove straight back to his mansion. Party was in full swing. Someone pinched their nose. "Is that William? How did he get so drab and ugly?" I nervously twisted the frayed hem of my faded shirt, remembering the sallow, gaunt face I'd seen in the rearview mirror. John grabbed my arm and pulled me aside, hissing, "William, how long are you going to stand there and embarrass me? Go change. You're scheduled to play the piano soon." Play the piano? That felt like a lifetime ago. My memory must be getting worse. I'd actually forgotten that I was once a renowned pianist in this country. I silently lifted my mottled, rough hands. They were a far cry from the flawless, slender hands I once had. Could I still play? Before I could process anything, a maid led me into the walk-in closet. "Mr. William, sir asked me to help you change." As she spoke, she gently began to unbutton my shirt, but for some reason, her face merged with the warden's. I shoved her away, wrapped my arms tightly around my chest, and collapsed to my knees on the floor. "Don't, please don't. I'm begging you, don't take off my clothes. I'll be good." "Sir, what's wrong?" The commotion brought John barging in from outside. "William, what are you throwing a fit about now?" His angry shout snapped me back to reality. I clutched my collar, silent. "John, tell them to leave. I don't need their help. I have my own hands and feet. I can change myself." John dismissed the maids and looked down at me, a flicker of satisfaction in his eyes. "It seems that trip did teach you something after all." After everyone left, I stared at the horrifying scars beneath my cuffs and chose the most conservative outfit I could find, something completely opposite to my old style. The moment I walked out, everyone, not just John, was stunned. Ignoring their whispers, I walked silently to the familiar piano. My fingers brushed the keys, each tip, trembling with pain as the damaged tendons stretched. A year had passed, but the melody was still etched in my mind. Yet I knew I could never again play it as beautifully as I once had. When I finished, the guests immediately started murmuring among themselves. Not because I played well, of course, but because I played horribly. John listened with a face as dark as thunder. He leaned in close, his voice low. "William, playing like that, are you trying to humiliate me on purpose?" "I'm sorry. I closed the piano lid and practically fled. As I shut the door to my room and curled into a ball, a beautiful melody started playing from outside. It was Ryan's playing. Ryan was once a good friend from school, and he was also the one that got away for John. He was an Omega too, but his compatibility with John was low. So, because of my family's power, John chose to marry me. A year ago, my family fell from grace. My parents, who had cherished me like a precious jewel, were gone. One jumped from a building. The other died by suicide to follow. In just a few short days, I lost everything a person could lose. But the suffering didn't stop there. My pride trampled. My fingers broken. Thinking about it made my heart ache with a sharp, stabbing pain. My hand trembled as I took a pill bottle from my bag and shook out a few tablets. In my 3rd month at the academy, I developed severe depression. I had to take medication every day just to stay alive. Just then, the piano music outside stopped, replaced by a knock on the door. "William, it's Ryan. Are you in there?" The moment I heard his voice, I quickly swallowed the pills in my hand and hid the bottle. Just as I hid it, Ryan pushed the door open and came in. "William, you're back. Why didn't you tell me? I would have come to welcome you." He came closer, his face a mask of concern. "William, what happened to you? You look awful. Seems you really suffered at that Omega Academy." I stared at his hypocritical face. What was he pretending for? It was Ryan who suggested John send me there in the first place. He always hated me for taking John away from him. After my family went bankrupt, he couldn't wait to grind me into the dust. Now he was just here to kick me while I was down. I didn't even look at him, just said flatly, "What do you want?" Ryan slowly took my hand. "What do I want? I want John to hate you even more, of course. You've been in the way as Mrs. Moore for far too long." Hearing footsteps, Ryan quickly grabbed my hand and shoved himself with it. He tumbled dramatically to the floor, and crimson blood immediately started to well up on his pale hand. A moment later, John's roar echoed in my ears. "William, how can you be so vicious? No wonder everyone says you're jealous that Ryan plays the piano better than you. You make me sick." Staring into John's hateful eyes, I didn't want to explain. I didn't have the energy. My stomach was beginning to churn with searing pain again. The feeling was familiar. I must have accidentally taken too much medication. All the color drained from my face. I struggled to crawl to John's feet and tugged on his pant leg. "John, it hurts, my stomach hurts so much." But John just picked Ryan up and kicked me square in the chest, his eyes full of scornful disgust. "William, stop your act." With that, he abandoned me, carrying Ryan away without a second glance. Ryan shot me a triumphant look over his shoulder. A gush of blood rose in my throat, and the world before me began to fade to gray. Maybe it would be better if I just died like this. My hand slowly came to rest on my chest. At least it wouldn't hurt anymore. In the end, a maid found me and rushed me to the hospital. They shoved a feeding tube as thick as my thumb down my throat to pump my stomach. Pain, nausea, and pressure crushed my chest. I stared numbly at the bright surgical light above me. John was probably still with Ryan right now. Of course he was. He could never bear to see Ryan get even the smallest scratch. In a daze, the light clicked off. A young male doctor took off his mask. "William, your stomach is in very bad shape. If you keep treating it like this, there's a high risk of it turning cancerous." I bitterly touched my aching stomach and told the doctor I'd be more careful. After the doctor left, I was on an 4-drip for 2 hours before preparing to leave. The doctor wanted me to stay for observation, but I was broke. All I had left was a little money my parents had left me before they died. As for the credit card John had given me, I hadn't touched a cent of it. I didn't want to owe him anything. After I picked up my prescription, I looked up and met the eyes of John, who was helping Ryan walk. He gave me a mocking look. "William, you're really committed to the bit, aren't you?" I instinctively clutched the pharmacy bag and hid it behind my back, planning to walk around them. But my movement caught John's attention. He let go of Ryan and strode toward me. Just as John was about to reach for the bag, Ryan grabbed his arm. "John, I feel a little dizzy." John's motion stopped, and he turned to support Ryan's shoulder. Ryan leaned weakly into John's arms. "William, I'm just not feeling well. That's why I'm leaning on him." "You're not mad, are you?" John suddenly remembered he was married, and that this was inappropriate. For once, he tried to explain. "William, I was just worried about Ryan." I cut him off, a grim smile twisting my lips. "It's fine. I don't mind. If there's nothing else, I'll be going." Without waiting to see John's stunned expression, I turned and walked away. When I got home, I moved my things from the master bedroom to a guest room. I was just about to go to sleep when John rushed back in, looking like he'd been through a storm. I thought he'd be gone all night. Shouldn't he be with Ryan? Maybe he just forgot something. With that thought, I started to close the door, but John suddenly blocked it, his face a rare mixture of anger and concern. "William, why didn't you tell me you were sick?" In his hand was my medical report. No wonder I couldn't find it earlier. I glanced at the paper, feeling drained. The doctor said it's nothing serious. "It's fine." John pushed his way into the room, refusing to drop it. "How is it nothing serious? You used to cry and complain if you got a paper cut." He was right. The old William would have run into his arms crying over the slightest pain or grievance. But I was no longer that pampered young master. The person who survived was someone who understood the reality of his situation. Besides, wasn't this what he wanted? For me to change? Why was he unhappy now? So strange. John's tall frame loomed over me, casting me in shadow. I was no longer used to such closeness, so I instinctively lowered my head and took a step back. "You're the one who said not to bother you unless it was something serious." "When did I say that?" John stopped, and he seemed to remember. It was the third day after I'd been sent to the academy. Because I refused to obey, the warden whipped me with a leather strap soaked in salt water. My skin was delicate back then, and I came down with a high fever that night. There was no medicine at the academy, no hot water. Whether I lived or died was up to fate. I was on the verge of death. I managed to borrow a phone to call John for help, but he just said, "William, you're being so dramatic. It's just a little cold, and you want me to come get you? From now on, don't call me unless it's a real emergency." Then he hung up, leaving me to rot in that hell. I fought for 3 long days and nights before I clawed my way back from death's door. After that, I gradually stopped expecting anything from John. And yet, his next words managed to ignite a ridiculous flicker of hope inside me. "Forget what I said before. I'm taking you to the hospital. Your stomach is in bad shape. You have to be admitted." John raised his arms, about to sweep me up. Just then, his phone rang with the special ringtone he'd set for Ryan. I had a feeling Ryan wouldn't let it go that John had left him to come find me. Sure enough, when John came back from the call, his expression had completely changed. "William, you disgust me. Forging a medical report to trick me? I will never believe a word you say again." He threw the report on the floor, slammed the door, and left. He always trusted Ryan more than me. He never gave me a chance to explain. I slowly sank to the floor, curling into a ball in the corner. That tiny flame of hope inside me was completely extinguished. "William, you told yourself not to be sad. So why does your heart still ache?" After that incident, I barely saw John. Even when we occasionally ran into each other at home, we'd either ignore each other or he'd glare at me coldly. I never explained myself because I no longer cared what he thought of me. The only thing that worried me was my health. Although I was taking my medication regularly and my mood was stabilizing, I still got splitting headaches from time to time, and I was forgetting more and more. Like today, I thought my therapy appointment was today, but when I rushed to the front desk of the clinic, they told me I had the date wrong. On the way home, my head throbbed with the effort of trying to remember. Just as I decided to pull over and rest, I heard a deafening crash. A starburst of pain bloomed on my forehead, and then only dizziness remained. Strangely, after the car crash, it was as if my soul had left my body. I watched myself get rushed into the emergency room, and I watched as John, once again, refused to trust me in a moment of crisis, abandoning me. "Hello, is this William's husband? He's been in a car accident and we need a family member to sign the critical condition consent forms." John frowned. What kind of trick is he pulling now? Tell William I'm not falling for it. Beep, beep, beep. Hello? Hello? After hanging up, John irritably turned on the TV. To his surprise, the news channel was reporting on the accident. A major car accident occurred on Main Street today. A male Omega in one of the vehicles is severely injured and is currently undergoing emergency surgery. John stared intently at the fleeting image on the screen for nearly 10 seconds. Then, he snatched his coat from the hook by the door and sped to the hospital. He arrived out of breath, his hands trembling as he grabbed a nurse's arm. Nurse, is the patient in there named William? The nurse looked at him and nodded. Yes. I've never seen such a pitiful patient. On top of the injuries from today's accident, he has so many other illnesses and old wounds. Even the bones in his fingers have been shattered and reset. I don't know if he'll make it through this. The nurse rambled on, but John didn't hear a word. He gripped her wrist tightly. You said he has injuries. What injuries? What illnesses? The nurse winced in pain and grew wary. Right, may I ask who you are? I'm his alpha. The nurse's expression immediately soured. As his husband, you don't know? He has a severe stomach condition and depression. His body is covered in whip marks and countless needle pricks, and not a single one of his fingers is undamaged. You look like a respectable man. Don't you know domestic abuse is illegal? John's eyes reddened, and his hands fell limply to his sides. He muttered, he wasn't lying to me? He looked fine. How could he have so many injuries? I laughed coldly. Even now, John still thought I was lying. William, how ridiculous that you fell in love with a man like this. Just then, a junior nurse rushed toward the ER. Head nurse, the blood bank is empty. What do we do? John snapped out of his nightmare, his voice suddenly sharp. What do you mean there's no blood? My husband is in there waiting for a transfusion. And you're telling me there's no blood? The junior nurse flinched. Before she could react, John was already rolling up his sleeve. Take mine. We have the same blood type. The head nurse glanced at John. No time to be annoyed now. She pulled him toward the donation room. Inside, John gave 800 cubic centimeters of blood. He gripped the edge of the bed, his face deathly pale. My husband isn't going to die, right? The head nurse held the blood bag and gave John a complicated look. We can't make any guarantees. The rims of John's eyes grew redder. But I, witnessing this scene, felt nothing but amusement. Didn't he want me dead more than anyone? Why the devoted act now? Even a dog wouldn't want affection that comes this late. After I cursed him in my head, John sneezed. He looked suspiciously in my direction, probably thinking he was hallucinating. He shook his head, then pulled his phone out and called Ryan. Hey John, what's up? I'm asking you, was that Omega Academy a legitimate institution? On the other end, Ryan panicked. Of course it was. John, why are you asking? Did William say something to you again? John closed his eyes, hung up on Ryan, and immediately dialed another number. I need you to look into this right now. I don't know how much time passed, but eventually, the doctors wheeled me out of the ER. They told John that I was out of immediate danger, but if I remained in a coma for too long, I could end up in a vegetative state. John went crazy, grabbing the doctor by the collar and demanding he make me wake up. But there was nothing the doctor could do. They told John to prepare himself. John's strength gave out, and he slumped against the wall. After a long silence, he looked up and snarled at the doctors. Get out. All of you, get out. Once everyone was gone, John lifted my hand, intending to wipe my fingers clean. But he found that the hands William was once so proud of were now covered in so many scars that their original appearance was unrecognizable. A tear fell from his eye, landing right on my fingertip. For the next few days, John never let go of my hand. He barely ate or drank, and he talked to me constantly. He talked about our past. Then he would fall silent, because in recent years, he hadn't been good to me at all. There was a time when John and I were in love. His parents were best friends with mine, so after they passed away, my parents took him in. You could say we were childhood sweethearts. He'd taken the blame for me, gotten into fights for me, and even nearly drowned trying to save me once. Back then, His eyes were full of stars when he looked at me. So our marriage was a natural next step. But everything came to a screeching halt when Ryan appeared. First, Ryan convinced him to awaken his self-awareness and not let my parents control him. He even told him that my family's success was built on sucking his family's company dry. The funny thing is, John actually believed him. He didn't know that his family's company was already on the verge of collapse. The only reason my father acquired it was because he couldn't bear to see his best friend's life's work destroyed. What he knew even less was that my family didn't just not profit from the acquisition, we lost money. My father only kept it from him so he wouldn't feel bad. But I never expected the truth to be revealed to him so soon. When I saw the look of utter shock on John's face, I suddenly wanted to ask him, did he regret it? Regret never trusting me? Never trusting my family? He clearly did regret it. With lightning speed, he shut down that disciplinary academy and had everything Ryan owned destroyed. To get me to wake up, he even brought my favorite piano into my hospital room. John held my wrist, massaging my knuckles over and over. William, I know you've loved playing the piano since you were little. I'm cleaning your fingers for you now. Please wake up and play for me. Okay? You said you'd play for me whenever I wanted to hear it. His voice grew weaker until he broke down, sobbing uncontrollably. Just then, a powerful force pulled me away, and I lost consciousness. When I came to again, I remembered nothing. I stared at the strange man crying hysterically by my bedside, completely confused. Who are you? The man's expression shifted rapidly from joy to disappointment, and finally to resolve. He gripped my shoulders. William, it's okay if you don't remember me. We have a long future ahead of us. But this man who called himself my husband felt strangely intimate, and I felt a strange urge to push him away. Do we really have a long future together? For the next 2 weeks, the man who claimed to be my husband never left my side. He doted on me, cared for me, fed me, and gave me massages. The only thing he didn't do was follow me into the bathroom. Despite his devotion, I always felt a faint sense of distance and aversion toward him. I couldn't understand it. If he really was my husband, why wasn't there a single memory of him in my head? The more I thought about it, the more my head hurt, and beads of sweat formed on my forehead. William, John strode over to me. Just as his hand was about to touch my hair, I gently blocked it with my arm. Mr. Moore, I'm mostly recovered now. I can handle these things myself. You don't need to trouble yourself. I had been calling him Mr. Moore this whole time, polite yet distant. The light in John's eyes dimmed. He looked hurt. William, you've always called me John. I lowered my head, unsure how to explain my aversion to him. In the end, I could only say 2 words. I'm sorry. John quickly masked his feelings and pulled a gilded card from his pocket. Let's not talk about that. William, this is an invitation to a recital. But you haven't fully recovered yet, so you can decide if you want to go. I couldn't remember much, but my passion for the piano had never cooled. I looked at my fingers, which still didn't move as freely as they once did. I felt a mix of inadequacy and anticipation, but I wanted to be brave. On the day of the recital, backstage, a familiar voice called my name. William, could I possibly play a duet with you? I turned to see a handsome young man who told me he was my junior from the conservatory. He said we weren't just classmates, but also the most compatible partners, having won numerous national championships together. He even showed me old photos of us. He suggested we change the program. He wanted to play a piece I had composed. He said I'd never been willing to play it for him or with him before, and now that he finally had the chance, he wanted to make that dream come true. His words felt like opening Pandora's box. I had a vague feeling that this piece was fatally linked to my past. But the recital was about to start, and I didn't have time to think. John sat in the front row holding a bouquet of flowers. When he saw my classmate behind me, his expression darkened. As I played, his face grew even stormier. When our duet ended, we received a standing ovation. But John was already gone, having left only the bouquet behind on his seat. After the performance, John appeared backstage, his eyes bloodshot. William, I remember you once said that you would only ever play this piece for me. I didn't understand why he was so angry, and I subconsciously wondered if I'd ever really said something so cheesy. It's just a piece of music. What's wrong with playing it for my audience? Besides, you were in the audience, too. John met my clear, innocent gaze, and the next second, his large hand closed around my arm. Come home with me. I'll tell you everything. My classmate grabbed my other wrist. Excuse me, sir, but William already promised to have dinner with me. Not to be outdone, John pulled me into his arms. I think you're mistaken. What, sir? When you think about it, you should be calling me his husband. The atmosphere felt a little tense, and I was getting annoyed by John's sudden mood swing. So I struggled out of his embrace. Mr. Moore, I really did promise to have dinner with him. Without looking at John, I took my classmate's hand and left. At dinner, we had a great time talking. He told me about our university days, how our professor made us practice, how we took trains to competitions all over the country, and how we composed music together. But there were things he seemed hesitant to say. The mystery in my heart grew larger, and the uncertainty threatened to swallow me whole. Even if John wouldn't tell me, I was going to find him and demand answers. Before I could find John, however, I ran into another old classmate, Ryan. We need to talk. He must have deliberately cut off my car. When I didn't respond, he continued, Don't you want to know what happened in the past? So I turned the car around, and we went to a coffee shop. Sitting across from him, I realized Ryan had aged a lot. The well-kept black hair he once had was now coarse and messy. Ryan met my gaze and touched his face with a cold smile. William, I've been reduced to this. Are you satisfied? He blamed me, saying he was in this state all because of me. He claimed that if I hadn't bad-mouthed him to John, he never would have been kicked out of the orchestra and lost all his performance opportunities. Now, he could only make a living by substitute teaching. As he spoke, his expression grew more and more twisted. William, why are you so lucky? Even fate favors you, letting you lose your memory and forget all the pain. Well, I won't let you have it so easy. He threw a stack of photos on the table, a sinister smile on his lips. You want to know what happened? I think you'll remember after seeing these. I picked one up, and my fist clenched involuntarily. The photo showed a male Omega being whipped, his expression contorted in agony. Looking closer, his face, it was identical to mine. Painful memories exploded in my mind like fireworks, and the joints in my fingers began to ache. I dropped the photo as if struck by lightning, my lips trembling. You're lying. Ryan smiled. Am I? Then take a look at this. He tossed his phone over. It was playing a depraved video. My knuckles cracked. My mind was in complete chaos, and a voice inside me kept screaming, That's not me, that's not me. When I woke up again, I was lying in the large bed in the mansion. I held my temples as all the memories rolled over my heart like wheels. Again and again. I walked over to the piano. The moment my fingers touched the keys, my heart suddenly grew calm. I finished the piece. It was still beautiful. I curled my fingers into a fist. Perhaps I should be brave. I called for a maid and asked her calmly, Where is he? The maid replied, The master is in the basement. Refusing her help, I followed my memory to the basement. As soon as I opened the door, I heard Ryan's ugly shouting. John, why do you only have eyes for William? Is it just because your compatibility is high? Honestly, I don't know what I ever did to him to make him hate me so much. When he didn't have money in college, I helped him find a part-time job. When he couldn't afford a piano, I bought him one. I even recommended him for his spot in the orchestra. And in return, he hated me so much that he not only stole my alpha but also sent me to that hell. He was truly unforgivable. Smack! Ryan's shouting stopped abruptly. That slap didn't come from John. Came from me. Ryan held his face, looking at me in disbelief. William, you dare to hit me. I stepped forward and slapped him again. Ryan, after everything I've done for you, 2 slaps don't even cover the interest. And I'm not just going to hit you. I'm going to make you suffer 100 times over. Ryan scrambled backward on the floor. What are you trying to do? Believe it or not, I'll call the police. Do you think I'd stoop to your level and use such dirty tricks? I slapped my phone against his face. Distributing private videos of others is enough to land you in jail for a few years. Don't worry, I'm not going to get my hands dirty over someone like you. After I left, John chased after me. William, let me handle punishing Ryan. You haven't fully recovered yet. I didn't even glance at him. My business is none of your concern. I'll have the divorce papers drawn up and sent to your email as soon as possible. Just make sure you sign them. I could feel his body go rigid after I spoke. But what did that have to do with me? It wouldn't change my decision to move out of his mansion and start a new life. I moved quickly. The day after I moved out, I sent John the divorce papers. But what I got back wasn't the signed agreement, but John holding a bouquet of roses. William, I don't agree to a divorce. They were my favorite perfume roses. But John didn't know that was in the past. Now, my favorite flowers were sunflowers, which always turned toward the light. I pushed the flowers back into his hands. John, Ryan has been punished, but he only hurt my body. The person who hurt my heart the most was you. What punishment have you received? John was speechless for a long moment. He was starting to panic. William, I admit I was wrong to listen to Ryan, and I did a lot of things to hurt you. But I hope you'll give me a chance to make it up to you. Or you can punish me. Anything, just don't leave me. I slowly pulled an acceptance letter for an advanced program in Vienna from my bag. It's too late, John. I have more meaningful things to do than punish you. The hand holding the letter was trembling. He forced a smile, still trying to get me to stay. William, you want to go to Vienna? I support you. I think we both need some time to cool off. Or I could go with you. I shook my head. I don't need anyone to accompany me anymore. Because I have my own dreams, my own strength. I sighed. John, just sign the papers. At least let me keep one last good impression of you. Seeing my resolve, John took a deep breath. He insisted on placing the flowers in my arms. His voice tinged with a broken weariness. Don't refuse. Just take it as my wish for your bright future. Couldn't argue, so I accepted them. Then, after he was gone, I turned and threw them in the trash. I was done with John. I didn't need his flowers, either. A few days later, I received the finalized divorce papers from John. Nothing much had changed except for the division of assets. John had revised my request to leave with nothing. Instead, he gave me all the property under his name and 50% of his company's shares. When I called to ask, he claimed it was all marital property and should be divided equally. If that was the case, I saw no reason to be proud. After the divorce, I liquidated all the assets and donated the money to a foundation for abused children. As for the shares, I needed the money, so I kept them for the dividends. With everything settled, I bought a plane ticket to Vienna. John wanted to see me one last time, but I refused. That day, in the crowded airport, John, wearing the coat I'd given him, searched desperately for me. He didn't know my flight had taken off early. Just like our lives, which were always missing each other. Epilogue. In the third year after William left, John's health began to fail. Friends and family told him that if he couldn't let go, he should go find him. He would calmly say it was fine, that he didn't want to disturb William's life. But the truth was he'd lost his courage. He didn't have the courage to face a William who had already fallen in love with someone else. In the photos on William's social media, he was nestled in another alpha's arms, looking so happy. John was afraid that if he saw it in person, he would lose control and ruin William's happiness again. That would only make William hate him more, wouldn't it? So, he poured all his energy into the perfume roses William had planted at the mansion. He would often look at them and remember when William was still there. Because John was never home, William would spend entire afternoons watering the flowers one by one. He hoped that when the sun went down, his alpha would come home. But not only did John not come home, he would occasionally bring Ryan back to twist the knife in William's heart. Every hope was met with disappointment until it became despair. So William stopped hoping, and he stopped tending to the flowers. Later, he forgot everything, including the rose garden. The only things he took from that house were his piano and his love for John. To ease his longing, John learned to play the piano. When he couldn't sleep, he would play all night, and his mental state deteriorated. During those days of extreme mental fog, He would constantly mistake strangers on the street for William. But none of them were ever the person he missed. Disappointment after disappointment finally made him realize the truth. He had lost William a long, long time ago,